Hey everyone! I never thought I'd be making a video about this, but here we are. Sometimes life throws you curveballs that are so absurd you have to share them with the world. This is the story of how my ex-boyfriend's mom stole my dog. Karma, with a little help from yours truly, came back to bite her. But I do wonder now, looking back at the devastation, did I go way too far to get my revenge and recover my dog? Watch it all and judge. Before I dive into this story, I want you to imagine something. You're sitting in your empty house, staring at a dog bed that shouldn't be empty, a leash that should be jingling by the door, and a water bowl that hasn't been touched in days. That was me 8 months ago, and what happened next changed everything. This isn't just a story about revenge. It's about justice, standing up for what's right, and how sometimes the universe has a way of making things work out exactly as they should. I guess I should start at the beginning. My name's Sarah Chen, and I'm a marine biologist specializing in coastal ecosystem preservation. Growing up in a small town in Oregon, I was always the kid who rescued injured birds and lectured classmates about recycling. My mom, an environmental lawyer, and my dad, a high school science teacher, definitely shaped my worldview. They taught me that standing up for what's right isn't always easy, but it's always worth it. That background becomes important later, I promise. First, let me introduce you to the star of this story, Luna, my gorgeous Australian shepherd. I got her 3 years ago when she was just 8 weeks old, right after I finished graduate school and landed my first real job as a marine biologist. I'd always wanted a dog, but my tiny college apartment and crazy schedule made it impossible. When I finally moved into a house with a yard near the research center, I knew it was time. Luna wasn't just any dog. She was my fresh start. My reward for surviving 6 years of graduate school living on ramen and coffee. She was my soul in four-legged form. We did everything together. Morning runs along the beach, weekend hiking adventures, and even paddleboarding. Yes, she actually loved it. She had these stunning blue eyes that seemed to look right into your soul, and this weird habit of tilting her head whenever she heard classical music. I'm not kidding, put on some Mozart and she'd do this adorable head tilt dance that made everyone laugh. I still remember walking into the shelter that day. I had actually gone to look at another dog, a lab mix I'd seen online. But then this blue merle puppy with mismatched eyes, one brown, one lighter brown, caught my attention. That one's a handful, the shelter worker Marie warned me. Smart as a whip, but needs someone who can keep up with her. She went on to explain that Luna had been surrendered by a family who'd bought her from a breeder but couldn't handle her energy level. These dogs need a job, Marie said, or they'll make one up, and you probably won't like what they choose. I knew right then she was meant for me. We both needed purpose, challenge, and someone to understand us. The adoption papers were signed that day, and my life changed forever. Luna and I developed a routine that would probably exhaust most people. 5 a.m. runs along the beach, where she'd chase sandpipers, never catching them, but having the time of her life trying. Then she'd come to work with me at the research center, where she became an unofficial therapy dog for stressed-out graduate students. My colleague, Dr. James, everyone calls him Jimmy, always said Luna had a sixth sense for who needed a furry shoulder to cry on. That dog's smarter than half my research assistants, Jimmy would joke, watching Luna comfort yet another overwhelmed student. He became one of my closest friends and Luna's favorite uncle, always ready with treats and new toys. Jimmy was also the first person to warn me about Marcus, but we'll get to that. I met Marcus, my ex-boyfriend, at a local coffee shop called Lighthouse Coffee, a little cafe near the research center. Luna was doing her usual routine, charming everyone in sight, especially the barista who would give her treats, when Marcus walked in. He was tall, charming, sandy-haired, and seemed to genuinely love dogs, with an easy smile that made you feel like you were in on some private joke. Luna adored him, and his family seemed wonderful, especially his mom, Patricia. In short, he appeared to tick all the right boxes. He was a local real estate developer, he told me, specializing in eco-friendly housing developments. Looking back, I should have noticed how he said eco-friendly with that slight smirk, like it was a marketing gimmick rather than a genuine commitment. But you know how it is when you're falling for someone. Red flags just look like flags through rose-tinted glasses. The first few months were perfect. Marcus was attentive, funny, and seemed to genuinely love Luna. He'd join us for our morning runs, bring over organic dog treats, and even help me set up an agility course in my backyard. His family, especially his mother Patricia, welcomed me with open arms. Patricia was one of those women who seemed perfect on the surface. President of the local garden club, organizer of charity events, always dressed like she'd stepped out of a Martha Stewart magazine. She doted on Luna whenever we visited, always had special organic treats ready, and even knitted her a sweater for Christmas. Looking back, I should have seen the red flags. The way she'd make little comments about how Luna was wasted on my busy schedule, or how she'd be perfect for her hobby farm. Ah, Patricia. Picture the love child of Martha Stewart and Cruella de Vil, but with better gardening skills and a more passive-aggressive approach to villainy. She lived in this gorgeous Victorian house on the edge of town, with gardens that belonged in Better Homes and Gardens. Every Sunday, she hosted family dinners that felt like auditions for the role of perfect future daughter-in-law. "Sarah, dear," she'd say, passing the roast she'd probably spent hours preparing. "It must be so difficult managing a dog with your career." She had a way of making career sound like a temporary phase I'd eventually grow out of, like rainbow hair or vegetarianism. My friend May, who'd known Patricia through the garden club for years, tried to warn me. "That woman," she told me over coffee one day, "has been planning her son's life since before he was born. She had his wedding planned before he hit puberty, and trust me, the bride in her vision is more traditional than you." I brushed off May's concerns, focusing instead on how Patricia doted on Luna. She'd watch her when I had to travel for work, always sending me photos and updates. "Luna's such a blessing," she'd text. "She really brings life to this big old house." Again, a warning sign I chose to ignore. The cracks in my relationship with Marcus started showing around month 10, and things unraveled pretty quickly after that. I'd been offered a position leading a major research project on the impact of coastal development on marine ecosystems. The position would require regular travel to various marine conservation sites along the coast, sometimes for weeks at a time. The irony of studying the environmental impact of exactly the kind of work Marcus did wasn't lost on me. Marcus didn't like the idea of me being away, and honestly, that's when he showed his true colors, making snide comments about my career choices and suggesting I should focus on settling down instead. When I refused to turn down the opportunity, things got ugly. "You can't seriously be considering this," Marcus said when I told him the news. We were at his place, and Luna was curled up between us on the couch, sensing the tension. "What about our future? What about starting a family?" "I can do both," I argued. "Lots of scientists manage family and career. Besides, we haven't even talked about marriage or kids yet." "Because I thought you'd naturally want to settle down once the right opportunity came along," he shot back. "Mom always said you were just going through your career phase." That fight was the beginning of the end. Over the next 2 months, every conversation somehow turned into a debate about my priorities. Marcus started making comments about how his ex-girlfriend was now a successful real estate agent working in his father's firm, how she understood the importance of family values. The final straw came when he suggested I turn down the research position and come work for his company's PR department instead. "You can use your environmental knowledge to help us market our developments," he said, like he was offering me the opportunity of a lifetime. "Mom thinks it's the perfect solution." I ended things the next day. It was hard, any ending is. But Luna was there, offering puppy kisses and comfort. Jimmy took me out for drinks that night, letting me cry and rant about wasted time and dodged bullets. "You know Patricia won't take this well," he warned. "That woman's used to orchestrating everything in Marcus's life." I should have listened more carefully to that warning. 2 days later, I came home from work to find my back gate open and Luna gone. At first, I thought she'd somehow gotten out, but Luna was too well trained for that. Then I saw the note in my mailbox, written in Patricia's perfect cursive. "Dear Sarah, Luna is where she belongs now. She needs a stable home with a proper family, not someone who'll abandon her for weeks at a time. Don't worry. She'll be well cared for by someone who understands the importance of being present. Signed, Patricia." The next few hours were a blur of panic, rage, and disbelief. I called the police, who were sympathetic but unhelpful. "It's a civil matter," they explained, especially since Patricia had documentation of all the times she'd cared for Luna. Patricia also claimed Marcus had given her permission to take Luna during our relationship. He hadn't, and there was confusion about ownership. I had Luna's papers, vet records, and microchip registration, but Patricia had apparently been planning this for months, probably since the moment Marcus and I started having problems. She'd been taking photos with Luna and keeping records of every time she'd watched her, building her case for being the dog's real caregiver. I was devastated, but more than that, I was angry. This woman had not only stolen my dog, but was trying to gaslight me into thinking she was doing the right thing. My friends rallied around me and suggested everything from legal action to social media shaming. May brought over wine and her legal expertise. She's a corporate lawyer. Jimmy offered to accidentally release some invasive species into Patricia's prize-winning garden, but I knew I needed something more creative. Even my mom called her environmental law contacts, but without clear proof of theft, our options were limited. That's when I started thinking differently about the situation and remembered Patricia's one true weakness, her reputation. This woman lived and breathed for her social status in our small coastal town. You see, Patricia's power came from her reputation and status in the community. Her garden club presidency, her charity work, her perfect image. These weren't just hobbies, they were her armor, her identity. And as a scientist, I knew that the right kind of pressure could crack any armor. Unfortunately for her, I had a particular set of skills that could hit her right where it hurt. Suddenly, I knew exactly what I needed to do. Remember how I mentioned I'm a marine biologist? Well, part of my research involves studying the impact of different fertilizers on coastal ecosystems. I also happen to know a lot about plants, thanks to my mother's landscape architecture business. Patricia's pride and joy was her award-winning rose garden, which had won the local garden club competition 5 years running. The plan came together slowly, methodically, like a well-designed experiment. Simple, elegant, and completely legal. First, I needed to gather data. I rejoined the garden club online under my maiden name, Chen. I'd never used it during my relationship with Marcus. Patricia, eager to show her magnanimity, took me under her wing, never suspecting that the quiet Chinese-American scientist was her ex-future daughter-in-law. Gardening, Patricia loved to say during club meetings, is about control. Nature gives us chaos, but we impose order. She'd then launch into detailed explanations of her methods, including her special fertilizer blend that kept her roses blooming months longer than anyone else's. Meanwhile, I did my research. That fertilizer became my key. Through careful observation and some discreet sampling, I confirmed what I'd suspected. Patricia had been using banned chemical fertilizers, probably imported through some shady connections, ones that had been outlawed due to their devastating effect on local watersheds. These fertilizers were incredibly effective, but also highly toxic to local wildlife and strictly prohibited in our county. Something that would interest both the Environmental Protection Agency and the local conservation board. I spent 3 months building my case, documenting everything meticulously. I took soil samples, photographed empty fertilizer containers in her garbage, and recorded her bragging about her special imports at garden club meetings. I also made friends with other club members, slowly and carefully sharing my concerns about the environmental impact of certain gardening practices. Jimmy helped me analyze soil samples in the lab, confirming levels of toxic compounds that would make any environmental protection agent's hair stand on end. May provided legal advice on gathering evidence without trespassing. Even my mother's environmental law background came in handy as we built our case. The real stroke of luck came from Patricia's own pride. During one garden club meeting, after too many glasses of wine, she started bragging about her European connections, who helped her get supplies you just can't find in the States anymore. Several club members looked uncomfortable, but no one said anything. I recorded every word on my phone. I had everything I needed, but my timing had to be perfect. The annual garden club competition was approaching, and Patricia was favored to win her 6th consecutive title. Patricia was set to win her 6th consecutive title, but before the day of the judging, I presented my irrefutable findings to the Garden Club Board, the local environmental authorities, and the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA. I had everything: scientific analysis of soil samples, water tests, photographic evidence, documented evidence of illegal chemical use, and testimony from multiple club members about Patricia's special imports and practices. The fallout was spectacular and far more dramatic than anything I could have imagined. The beauty of it was that it all happened live on the day, during the awards ceremony, witnessed by her family, friends, club members, the public, and anyone watching the live broadcast on cameras she'd paid for herself, thinking Hay would capture her 6th victory forever. What irony! Completely blindsided as her plans unraveled in spectacular fashion, Patricia was not only disqualified from the competition, but banned for life from future competitions. The Garden Club stripped her of her position as Garden Club president immediately. The EPA launched a full investigation into her property, and she faced hefty fines for environmental violations. Her carefully cultivated image, built over decades, crumbled in days, as local news picked up and amplified statewide. The story of illegal chemicals being used near protected watersheds. Congrats, Pat, you're on TV. But here's the best part. As part of the EPA's investigation, the authorities had to do a thorough inspection of her property. When they arrived, they found Luna, and since I had all the proper documentation of ownership, including microchip records and vet history, all impossible to dispute, she was legally returned to me, and Patricia couldn't fight it without drawing even more attention to her situation. The last thing she needed was more bad press. Personally, I would have been quite delighted to give an interview. The day I got Luna back was the happiest of my life. She bounded into my arms like we'd never been apart, giving me those same excited kisses and head tilts I'd missed so desperately. Marcus tried to reach out afterward, claiming he'd had no idea what his mother had planned. "She was just trying to help," he texted. "She thought she was doing the right thing." I blocked his number without responding. Some bridges aren't worth rebuilding. The aftermath of this whole situation taught me more than I expected. My research is going well, and I've modified my travel schedule to include some amazing dog-friendly field locations. Luna and I are closer than ever, but now we have an even bigger purpose. I've started a program at the research center called Pause for Conservation, where Luna charms visitors and helps with our educational programs teaching kids about protecting our coasts. Jimmy jokes that she's the most popular lecturer on staff. Looking back, I could have taken the easy route: social media shaming, legal battles, or plain old revenge, but by choosing to fight back with intelligence and integrity, I not only got Luna back, but also protected our community's environment. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone else, it's about standing up for what's right in a way that makes a real difference. So to anyone out there facing their own Patricia, remember that you don't need to stoop to their level to win. Use your skills, stay legal, and let karma do its thing. Trust me, it's much more satisfying in the end. As for Patricia, last I heard she'd moved to Arizona to live with her sister. Her Victorian house was sold to a young family who turned her chemical-laden garden into an organic vegetable patch and butterfly sanctuary. Sometimes karma has a sense of humor. I still run into garden club members around town. Most of them are supportive, some even admitting they'd had concerns about Patricia's methods for years, but were too intimidated to speak up. It's funny how often people need just one person to take a stand before they find their own courage. So, what's the moral of this story? Maybe it's that karma works best with a little help. Maybe it's that the right thing and the easy thing are rarely the same thing. Or maybe it's just that you should never mess with a woman's dog, especially if that woman happens to know her way around an environmental impact study.
Thanks for listening, everyone. If you enjoyed this story of justice served with a side of science, don't forget to like and subscribe. Drop a comment below if you've ever had to stand up to a bully in an unexpected way. We'd love to hear your stories, and remember to hit that notification bell to stay updated about more wild tales.